Hello everyone, I'm CapnIndifferent, and this is episode 3 in my Final Fantasy XIV Sprout series. In this video, we're going to go over the Final Fantasy XIV launcher and the helpful websites and information we can view from it. I'll be giving you a brief overview of the Lodestone, how to view patch notes, the play guide, the job guide, the online store, the Mog Station, as well as the community site. I won't be going too in-depth as there is a lot of information stored in these sites, but afterwards, I hope you can browse them with confidence and not have to scour them for the information you're looking for. As always, I'm going to keep this as brief as possible without leaving anything important out, so let's get to it. At the top of the launcher, you'll see links to a few of the sites I said we'd be going over: the Lodestone, patch notes, play guide, and online store. As a note, the Lodestone and play guide are not typically available while servers are being patched, as the data within is updated to reflect the current patch. As the Lodestone contains links to the other options, we'll be starting there. On the main page, if there is maintenance, it will only have the news available to view. Normally it looks like this. In the top right, you can log in to view your character's profile, and if you post on the forums, it will be as your character. If you hover over the options at the top of the screen, they reveal their contents. News contains the same information found below, as well as a list of patches and their promotional sites, a list of Lodestone updates, and a shortcut to view the current status of the servers. Under Getting Started, you can download the benchmark to test your computer's performance and test display and graphics settings. If you're new to the game, what you're seeing in the benchmark may be considered spoilers, but the only things that carry over from it are the music, some of the locales, and how the job gear looks. The Getting Started tab also includes a link to the free trial and an overview of the paid options like I went over in episode 1. The play guide has a ton to go over, so we're going to skip over the game's accolades and click play guide. The gameplay guide is like the game's instruction manual. The game manual is aimed at teaching you how to get acclimated to the controls and navigation in the game. There is a banner towards the top of the page where you can select your platform, so it shows you the controls for that platform. It will follow you as you scroll down, so it will be at the top if you want or need to change it later. Basic Controls has an overview of what the controls are for keyboard and gamepad. Navigating the game screen teaches you what the different UI elements are named and what they do, including what the different icons that appear over players, NPCs, and enemies' heads are. Party Play teaches you what classes and jobs make up the different roles: tanks, healers, and DPS. It also goes over pretty much everything you need to know about joining and making parties, using the Duty and Party Finder, and a short blurb on the friend list and mail service. Active Help explains an in-game feature with the same name. The Active Help system will alert you when there is a new feature that has a tutorial associated with it. The game catalogs these tutorials, so if you're ever in-game and don't want to reference a guide to a feature you've already seen the tutorial for, you can just search it by clicking on the System menu and selecting Active Help. Lastly, Configuration Settings goes over the two settings menus, Character Configuration and System Configuration, and how to back up and restore those settings. We went over system configuration and backing up settings last video, but character configuration is tied to the character you set them up on. These settings include mouse and gamepad mode toggle, control settings, item settings, UI settings, display name settings, hotbar settings, and log window settings. Since we've looked over each of these options, we'll head back to the gameplay guide. Next up is the UI guide. There is another banner here to adjust which control scheme you're using. Under Mastering the UI, you will find a decent guide that teaches you how to adjust different aspects of your hotbars and UI. You can use this guide to help learn how to move UI elements around, resize them, remove them, etc. Also in the UI guide, you will find frequently asked questions and other guides on topics like gear and inventory management, the glamour and dye systems, the market board, elegant tomestones, the chat system, screenshots and using GPOs, among other things. I suggest looking through them for yourself and clicking on whatever you would like to learn more about when you're ready. We also went over the world visit system last video, so onto the job guides. There is a general actions overview and a PvP actions overview. I will be giving PvP its own video when I get around to it, so I will be skipping the guide for now. If you're interested in PvP, I suggest giving your jobs guide a look to see how it changes when used in PvP. In the job guide, you will see the jobs organized in their roles. Clicking on one takes you to that job's page and gives you an overview on their actions, traits, combos if any, and their job gauge. I'll be going over the Paladin job to give you an example on how to digest the information. The name and icon of the actions are on the left. The acquired column tells you what level the action is learned. Note that some actions, such as Shield Lob, say class or job quest next to them. In Shield Lob's case, you will learn the skill once you've completed the level 15 Gladiator class quest. Types are separated into 3 categories: weapon skills, abilities, and spells. Weapon skills are instant attacks that trigger the recast timer, or global cooldown, GCD if you're familiar with that term from other MMOs. Spells usually have a cast time, but also trigger the recast timer. The recast timer is 2.5 seconds for weapon skills and spells. Abilities are instant actions that have a longer recast time. These are generally buffs, instant attacks, or other special actions. Abilities, however, do not trigger the GCD typically, and are referred to as OGCD, or off global cooldown actions. These do have a hidden animation lock that lasts about a second, but this means that you can use a weapon skill or spell, then use 1 or 2 abilities depending on your latency, in between uses of another weapon skill or spell, without going over the recast timer. This is getting into higher level play when you have more of them to use more often, but it's good to know. We can even apply this to a level 8 Paladin. As an example, you could start your combo with Fast Blade, then use Fight or Flight to buff your damage dealt, and Rampart to lower your damage taken before the GCD resets for Riot Blade. Moving on, MP cost will show you how much MP a spell consumes. Range and radius shows you how close you need to be to use the action, and if the action affects an area instead of one target. This example here shows how Intervene rushes to an enemy 15 yalms away. Yalms are Eorzean yards, so you're learning a little linguistics too. Holy Circle has no range, but hits all enemies in a 5-yard radius around the Paladin, whereas Passage of Arms protects party members standing in an 8-yard cone behind them. Notice the circle and cone markers under the range marker. The effect column tells you what an action does. Most of these are pretty easy to understand, but you may not be familiar with the terms potency and enmity. Potency is a generic measurement of how powerful an action is. So comparing Fast Blade and Riot Blade for a moment, Fast Blade has 200 potency, whereas Riot Blade has 100. However, if you use Fast Blade and then Riot Blade's potency is 300, and it also restores MP. So this is just to teach you, never use combo actions without their combo starter. Enmity is also known as Threat, and is a measurement mainly used for tanking. If you're tanking, you want enmity so the enemies don't attack the rest of your party. Simple. I didn't really intend to get into combat that much, but hopefully these examples have given you a decent baseline tutorial of how to understand what your actions do as you unlock them, and help you intuit how a job plays by reading its job guide. Scrolling down to role actions, as the name implies, these are actions that all jobs in a given role have access to. So all tanks have access to this list of actions. In the case of Arm's Length, that ability is also learned by melee and ranged DPS classes. Next are traits, which are passive buffs or modifications to other actions. Combos show you the job's primary combos and what they do. All classes have some type of job gauge. In the case of Paladin, the shield glows when their enmity boosting ability Iron Will is activated, and at level 35 they unlock the Oath gauge, which is a resource they can spend to use certain abilities. Each gauge has a simple mode, which reduces how flashy it is and the amount of space it takes up on the screen. With that, we're heading back to the play guide page. Under additional resources, you can find the Eorzea Database, where you can find information on quests, items, and more. You can search pretty much anything in the game here and it will give you information on it, though it seems to be lacking information on fishing. You can find text commands in the database, but there's a direct link to them as well. There's also a link for more information on housing. Now to look at the patch notes. The changes are laid out with these numbered markers that notate which expansion's contents they affect. 2.0 changes affect both A Realm Reborn and Heavensward content. These were recently merged to reflect how they are available in the free trial, hence why there are no 3.0 changes. 4.0 changes affect Stormblood content, and 5.0 affects Shadowbringers content. Here's an example of what the notes look like, using the patch that just released. They can be a little confusing at times, especially if you haven't reached the content they pertain to, but they're here if you wish to keep up to date on the changes. Farther down, Game Features has information regarding some of the more complex side content in the game. The different types of PvP and how to unlock it in the Wolves Den. The Gold Saucer, which is like an amusement park full of mini-games like Chocobo Racing, the card game Triple Triad, jump puzzles, lottery, and much more. The Ishgardian Restoration is content you can complete as a crafter or gatherer once you complete the patch 3.3 main scenario quest in Heavensward. The link has more information, but in short, it is probably the fastest, if not most repetitive, way to level your crafters and gatherers, and it has its own rewards and achievements you can earn. The 2 deep dungeons are roguelike dungeons that are good for leveling alternate classes in, and feature their own progression system and rewards. Lastly, it has information on the Ceremony of Eternal Bonding, where players can marry their characters in-game. Side stories are supplemental stories that serve to flesh out the world a little bit, or add some context to certain parts of the main story. The Grand Companies contains an overview of each Grand Company, their leader's background, and the hierarchy of the Grand Companies. There is also a primer on the Garlean Empire and Free Companies. Tales from the Calamity has short stories that follow some important characters in A Realm Reborn, and expand on their histories and personalities if you're interested in what they've been through since 1.0 or to learn about them beforehand. The other entries, Tales from the Dragonsong War, Tales from the Storm, and Tales from the Shadows all contain spoilers for their respective expansions, and should maybe be read after you finish all their main story content before starting the following expansion. The Final Fantasy XIV companion app is detailed next. Here's a list of features included in the app. Mainly, it is used for inventory management and accessing the market board and retainers from your mobile phone. It also has a premium service option where you add $5 to your monthly subscription price, which includes an extra retainer slot, and it doubles the amount of Chocobo saddlebag inventory spaces, if you're hurting for bag space. The inventory expansion is less cost-effective than buying even 2 additional retainers, but this is the only way to expand the saddlebag and get up to 10 total retainers. Next is a link to the online store, the real money shop for in-game items and services. There are several different categories on the left side of the screen to browse through. Fantasia is what lets you change your character's appearance. Tales of Adventure are the level and story boosts. Costume Set is where you can find many clothing options to glamour, and a Turtle Bond is where you buy the wedding services. The other options are pretty self-explanatory. I encourage you to look around, potentially to the detriment of your wallet. We're almost done with the play guide. The retainer service explains what is involved with paying for more retainers via the Mog Station. The important things to know about the service is that each additional retainer is $2, up to a maximum of 7 additional retainers. If you decide to stop paying for the service, you will lose access to those retainers entirely. Whatever items and guild they are storing will become inaccessible unless you pay to reactivate them. Job level boost and scenario skip item guide is exactly what it sounds like. It explains the benefits and limitations involved in both of those services. The requirements are, for the A Realm Reborn and Heavensward story skips, you need at least the starter edition. For the Stormblood skip, you either need to upgrade the starter edition with Shadowbringers, or you need to have bought the complete edition. For the job level boosts, you need the starter edition for the A Realm Reborn and Heavensward classes, and Shadowbringers or the complete edition for the Red Mage and Samurai boosts, like with the story skips. The Homeworld Transfer Service can be used to change a character's homeworld and data center. Veteran rewards are rewards you get for being subscribed for a certain amount of time. These are all iconic outfits worn by the protagonists in previous Final Fantasy games, namely Cloud, Zidane, Furion, and Squall. Now for the Mog Station. On the main page, you'll see an overview of your account. In Manage Service Options, you can add game time, add retainers, get the Premium Companion App service, register product codes, and add licenses for other platforms so you can access your account on those platforms as well. Down below, you can cancel your subscription, and your character list is below that. Clicking on a character's name here will take you to their profile page in the Lodestone, where you can view almost everything about your character and what they've done and collected, as well as your Chocobo and retainers. It also has a link that you can share with others. Heading back to additional services on the Mog Station, Digital Upgrade Service lets you upgrade to the Collector's Edition for any expansions you own. But note that if you pre-order the Standard Edition of Endwalker, you'll have to wait until after it releases to upgrade it. We've just been over Homeworld Transfer and Veteran rewards before, and Character Renaming Service does what it sounds like, lets you change your character's name. Optional Items takes you to the online store. Payment history and account settings are what they sound like, and Support Center has answers to common technical support questions. After the link to the Mog Station, the final link in the play guide is to the Recruit a Friend campaign. Using this service, you can invite friends to play the game and give them a code to register when they purchase the game and start their subscription. This does not work if they have already activated their subscription. The campaign gives you and your friends some useful and cool rewards, including an experience bonus circlet and the fist bump emote. You will also get more rewards gradually the longer they are subscribed. We're in the home stretch. Under the Community tab in the Lodestone, you can see Community Wall and Blog, where you can view posts made by other players around the world. The Community Finder is a tool to help you find social groups to join, like free companies, link shells, and PvP teams. The Event and Party Recruitment is like an offline party finder where you can post events for others to join. A link to the forums is also here in the Community tab, as well as the Fan Kit. Lastly, the Standings tab lets you look at the leaderboards for the different ranked events in the game. Like I said at the beginning, the Lodestone holds a ton of information. Thanks for sticking around as I went through it all, and I hope you learned something. That's going to do it for the third video in the Sprout series. Thank you for watching. Check the description for any helpful links I've included, and if you have any questions, please ask them in the comments below or join my Discord. Next time, we're actually going to play the game. I'm going to show you levels 1 through 10, and show you how I recommend you explore your starting city, and what to take note of as you play through the game. As always, I hope this was helpful, and that you enjoy your time in Eorzea. See you next time.